Unsurpassed, penetrating, and perfect Dharma is rarely met with even in 100,000 million kalpas. Having it to see and listen to remember and accept, I vow to taste the truth of the Tathagata's words. So we are in the middle of our nothing special practice period, taking up the question of what is a true human being and how do we live it? How do we live our deepest heart's desire? And our thoughts, our heart, our speech, and in the very ordinary experiences of our lives. No separation. And it is always urgent in a peaceful, easeful way. And it feels especially urgent now in these times that we practice, that we acknowledge that there is separation and there is over here and over there, but in the most fundamental way there is not. And so how we live and practice does affect the craziness of war, how we feel our feet on the ground, how we care for each other and our homes and those we love, that we just keep extending it and dedicating the merit of it. So we're using the teachings of Tiknot Han. I want to share some of them today. One of Tiknot Han's particular teachings, well, he has different focuses, but one is that in the triple treasure of Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, that it is in this time that Sangha becomes the most vibrant and needed jewel. So I thought I would first, book of poetry, Call Me by My True Names, which we can always go back to the poem Call Me by My True Names over and over. I thought I would start with, this one is called Refuge Prayer. At the foot of the Bodhi tree, beautifully seated, peaceful and smiling, the living source of understanding and compassion, to the Buddha, I go for refuge. The path of mindful living, leading to healing, joy, and enlightenment, the way of peace. To the Dharma, I go for refuge. The loving and supported community and the loving and supportive community of practice, realizing harmony, awareness, and liberation. To the Sangha, I go for refuge. I am aware that the three gems are within my heart. I vow to realize them. I vow to practice mindful breathing and smiling, looking deeply into things. I vow to understand living beings and their suffering, to cultivate compassion and loving kindness, and to practice joy and equanimity. I vow to offer joy to one person in the morning, and to help relieve the grief of one person in the afternoon. I vow to live simply and sanely, content with just a few possessions, and to keep my body healthy. I vow to let go of all worry and anxiety in order to be light and free. I am aware that I owe so much to my parents, teachers, friends, and all beings. I vow to be worthy of their trust, to practice wholeheartedly so that understanding and compassion will flower, and I can help living beings be free of their suffering. May the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha support my efforts. I am so much enjoying, and I hope you are too. I just haven't turned to Tiknot Han for a decade or more, and I keep just finding these jewels and feeling so grateful to him. And as I keep saying, that he came out of war. His practice was rooted before war, which was, I'm sure, how he stayed stable and alive in his heart and body. But his teachings are completely rooted in horror. He lived. He lived in the worst. So somehow that always helps me when it isn't someone just saying, oh, just love everybody. It's like, no, this is a practice. And Thich Nhat Hanh embodies that. So turning to Cultivating the Mind of Love, another wonderful little book that's been on my shelf forever. There's a whole chapter on Sangha. I wanted to share parts of it. I'll begin with something that I shared on Tuesday. We could share it forever. Talking about storehouse consciousness, deep consciousness. That there's a Buddha in each one of us. There is a Buddha in each one of us, in everyone. Everyone, without exclusion. And when we touch our baby Buddha, the seeds of understanding and love that are buried within us, we become filled with bodhicitta, the mind of enlightenment, the mind of love. And from that moment on, everything we do or say nourishes the baby Buddha within us. That's what we're doing. And we are filled with joy, confidence, and energy. According to Mahayana Buddhism, awakening our bodhicitta, the mind, heart of love, enlightenment, is the moment our practice begins. So you wouldn't be here if you weren't already watering the seeds of the Buddha within you. And as part of Sangha, it's an important part of how we help each other. So here's what he has to say, some of what he has to say about Sangha, community, taking refuge. If you have a supportive Sangha, it is easy to nourish your bodhicitta. If you do not have anyone who understands you, who encourages you in the practice of living the Dharma, your desire to practice may wither. Your Sangha, friends, families, and co-practitioners is the soil, and you are the seed. No matter how vigorous the seed is, if the soil does not provide nourishment, your seed will die. A good Sangha is crucial for the practice. Please find a good Sangha or help create one. Well, there you go, Buddhas. We'll just keep nourishing the soil and watering the seeds. Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha are three precious jewels in Buddhism, and the most important of these is Sangha. The Sangha contains the Buddha and the Dharma. A good teacher is important. Well, you got what you got. And sisters and brothers in the practice are the main ingredient for success. You have each other. You scored. He didn't say that, I did. You cannot achieve enlightenment. You cannot keep awakening your heart of love by locking yourself in your room. Even during the pandemic, if you had to, There is no locking and shutting the door. That's why we keep showing up in these little boxes wide open. Transformation is possible only when you are in touch. When you touch the ground, you can feel the stability of the earth and feel confident. When you observe the steadiness of the sunshine, the air, and the trees, you know that you can count on the sun to rise each day, and the air and the trees will be there. Even if you're living in a city where bombs are coming down, touch the ground. You need to choose friends in the practice who are stable, on whom you can rely. Taking refuge in the Sangha means putting your trust in the community of solid members who practice mindfulness, heartfulness together. You do not have to practice intensively. Just being in a Sangha where people are happy, living deeply the moment of their days is enough. That's a very radical teaching from Tiknot Han, because the roots of this tradition is monastic, and the roots of Zen that I came up in is practice really hard. And it's wonderful to practice really hard, and please go to a monastery if you can, and please sit sesshins. But he's really saying, pay attention in your ordinary life. He opened this to everybody. Each person's way of sitting, walking, eating, working, and smiling is a source of inspiration, and transformation takes place without effort. To show up over and over and over. If someone who is troubled is placed in a good Sangha, just being there is enough to bring about a transformation. We know that. We've watched each other. All of us are troubled at one time or another. We just hold each other up. I hope communities of practice in the West will organize themselves as families. "2,500 years ago, a little more, Shakyamuni Buddha proclaimed that the next Buddha will be named Maitreya, the Buddha of love. Do you know that? The Buddha of kindness. I think Maitreya Buddha may be a community and not just an individual. A good community is needed to help us resist the unwholesomeness of the ways of our times. And I would say the news, that is. The news, as we know, which is more than the news, which is the suffering of the world that's coming in 24/7. Mindful living protects us and helps us to go in the direction of peace. With the support of friends in the practice, peace has a chance. When you are animated by bodhicitta, the strong desire to devote yourself to the practice of the Dharma for the well-being of many beings, that is all you need. That is all you need. Bodhicitta is a source of power within you. The best thing you can do for others is to help them touch the bodhicitta in themselves. The seed of bodhicitta is there in each person, without exception. It is a matter of watering that seed and bringing it to life. One of the most important ways to nourish and protect bodhicitta is to find a good Sangha. If you have a Sangha that is joyful, that's also rather radical, because often practitioners are very serious. You should be very serious, but you should also know joy and be animated by the desire to practice and help. Then you will mature as a bodhisattva. I always tell the monks and nuns and lay practitioners at Plum Village that if they want to succeed in practice, they simply have to find ways to live in harmony with one another, and even with those who are difficult. It's easy in a Sangha to think we're a really harmonious Sangha, and if that person who's difficult would just go away, then everything would be fine. Yeah, well, look for that person inside of you and take care of it with love. Oh dear. We all do this. With a good Sangha, you are better protected. When the Sangha strikes, if you are supported, when the arrow strikes, implied in that is that the arrow will strike. Sooner or later, something, an arrow will penetrate, pierce your life. If you are surrounded by a supportive Sangha, you can continue your practice and your love will be transformed. Without a good Sangha, you are vulnerable. A Sangha is a raft that can help you survive in turbulent moments. I take refuge in the Sangha is a strong pledge. With a good Sangha, you touch the Buddha, you touch the Dharma, and you touch yourself very deeply. And then he says, it is thanks to the Sangha that I survived many difficult moments, and I have been able to be a resource for many people. He says that a lot, that the Sangha is what helped him survive the war. I'm really moved by his teachings. So I thought, of course, there's the Sangha within you, which is getting. We have lots of practitioners and ourselves who think, oh, I don't want to sit, or that stuff's phooey, or well, I mean, we can just all be honest that there's many different voices inside of ourselves, but there is, I take refuge in Sangha. I take refuge. We show up. We show up for each other. And we extend so that we can show up with and for the whole world, what is right outside our door, the moon and the sun and the sky, and for all beings that we think are over there. So I thought there's some really beautiful little meditations in another one of his books I'm really enjoying called The Blooming of the Lotus, Guided Meditation Exercises for Healing and Transformation. We did one on Tuesday. Most of them are called Looking Deeply in one way or another. I thought if you're willing, you could just sit, follow your breath, and we'll just do this guided meditation. I always say, because sometimes I'm rebellious enough that when people do guided meditations, I just don't want to cooperate. So stay with this in whatever way your heart and your breath and your body. And if it arises in your own body in a different way, that's okay too. The words are already going in. You don't have to effort here. But I'll just share Tiknot Han's teachings here about interbeing. Okay? Breathing in and out. Use your imagination. Aware of myself picking up an autumn leaf, I breathe in. Touching the wonderful interdependent nature of that leaf, I breathe out. Aware of myself alive here and now, I breathe in. And touching the wonderful interdependent nature of life in me and around me, I breathe out. Aware of the leaf returning to the earth and arising as a new leaf, I breathe in. And seeing the leaf in 10,000 different forms of birth and death, I breathe out. Aware of myself as a part of the wonderful interdependent existence, I breathe in. And seeing that I become manifest under many different forms, I breathe out. Seeing that the leaf is not really born, does not really die, but only appears to be born and die, I breathe in. And seeing that I do not really pass through birth and death, but only appear to, I breathe out. Seeing that the leaf has accomplished its work from beginningless time, I breathe in. And seeing that I have accomplished my work from beginningless time, I breathe out. Seeing that the leaf is already what it wants to become, I breathe in. And seeing that I am already what I want to become, I breathe out. Seeing that the leaf can call up and be whatever form is needed in beginningless times, I breathe in. And seeing that I can call up all of my many forms from beginningless times, I breathe out. Going to the refuge prayer. It ends in, may the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha support my efforts. May the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha support my efforts. What's that mean to you? And not asking for a Buddhist answer. We take refuge in the triple treasures. What do you take refuge in? What are the treasures? A true human being lives from a deep source, deep vows or intentions, our deepest heart's desire. So explore this today through the language of Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, and you don't have to sign up for or believe in anything. Just whatever words may have touched you today.